Race number 2 of the weekend for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge is just a few minutes away. A beautiful looking grid of 32 identical Ginetta G40s lining up on the grid ahead of what should be a very, very entertaining 20 minutes of racing. We had one race yesterday which was on a dry, maybe slightly damp circuit, and that produced a really, really interesting race battle, particularly for second position. In this one though, the grid is based on the second fastest lap times from qualifying, so again a slight reshuffle of the order, and we should be in for lots more close slipstreaming action. Andy McKeown up here to talk you through all of the action, Martin Haven alongside me. We've said this about all of the races so far today, but you never see a dull Ginetta GT5 race either, do you?
When you've got 32 cars on the grid, that makes for extra excitement as well. Yeah, this is the second biggest field of the day, and it is complete. The green flag waves at the back of the field. Scott McKenna on pole from Gaudy Much. Jerry Nicosia third on the grid with the sort of orange top to his bonnet. Adam Smalley, you can see there with the 54 car, the yellow colours, and they go away on their final formation lap. So a chance to then get some of the colours in your head. Poleman with the blue stripe up the centre, Gaudy Much with a much narrower stripe, orange on the nose of Jerry Nicosia, and Adam Smalley with the yellow highlights on his car. They are the top 4 on the grid, ahead of Josh Mallin, and Katie Milner is the top female driver on the grid in 6th spot.
Gus Bowers next, then Ruben Del Sart and Josh Hislop with Lewis Ryder rounding out the top 10 on what was a very closely matched grid. Conor Grady should move forward from 11th, you would imagine, and Nick Halstead alongside them, Tom Golding and Will Durdle on the next row of the grid, ahead of Wes Pearce and Danny Harrison on row number 8. I think that we saw Pearce then was the top AM driver on the grid. David Elsley there on the 10th row of the grid. Abby Pulling alongside. David Elsley, former champion in Ford Fiesta racing. Ryan Firth and Charlie Budd, a former star of Mini Miglia racing. Daniel Budd, his brother, is next in line, 24th on the grid, and the rest of them will file in behind. Championship-wise, going into this weekend, it was Jerry Nicosia who had the points lead by about 18 points over Adam Smalley and Scott McKenna. Yesterday's race, though, as I said, it was an interesting race, and Scott McKenna came out on top with Smalley second and Nicosia down in 4th, so the gap will have come down slightly now between the top 2 or 3 in the championship. That race saw, as I said, lots of great battling for second, which kind of allowed Scott McKenna to pull away. He won the race, Martin, by just over 7 seconds. Once you break the toe around here, particularly in these not particularly aerodynamic Ginetta G40s, that's half the battle won, isn't it?
Definitely. When you can get a big advantage, it's one thing, but when you get an advantage and there's a big battle where they're knocking each other's door handles off behind you, then that is just solid gold to a driver. So take that advantage and run with it, and then never look in your mirrors. If they're catching you, let them catch you. The first thing you need to know is when one of them appears alongside, you just ignore them, get your head down and charge away. And if Scott McKenna can make a break again, then this really will turn into quite the weekend for him. But the chance of lightning striking twice are relatively rare.
Yeah, they're not easy races to win these. It's even harder to win 2 or even 3 in a day. This is just a double header this weekend. Now, quite often we see 3 races a weekend for the GT5, just the 2 this weekend, because of course the bulk of our afternoon is made up of 3 hours of British GT racing, so just the 2 races. But it is the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and you speak to any of these drivers, particularly these young up-and-coming stars who grew up watching their Formula 1 or sports car heroes racing on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. It's a real honour, they say, to race on this particular layout at Silverstone, and as we've referred to a few times already today, not something that they necessarily get a huge amount of opportunities to do.
Yeah, very few of them will have had maybe 1 race on the Grand Prix circuit in their careers, probably not even that much, well, apart from yesterday, obviously. So it is a little venture into the unknown. You sort of know where it goes, but sort of knowing where it goes in a racing car doesn't really help very much. So it would have been a steep learning curve for a bulk of the field. Ruben Del Sart in 8th position, not the most common name, Del Sart. And in my formative years, there was a junior single-seater driver called Rafael Real Del Sart. Now, I don't know what Ruben's dad's name is, but it will be very interesting to see whether that connection has come back. A few Formula 3 drivers of the 80s have had their kids arrive back and start racing in the UK again. So it might well be that 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 is a second generation Del Sart racing here.
I think you may be right there. I have to say I don't know the answer, but I think your deductive work tells me that that may well be the case. So the grid lining up then. There's a bit of cement dust I noticed around in the final sector. That's from a rather oily VW from our previous race.
You're coming out of Luffield as well, and there's a patch on the grid as well, right in front of Adam Smalley's car, the yellow number 54 car there. You can see that he's sort of back on his grid box a little bit, but he needs to avoid that oil if he can. Otherwise, it's going to be a very slippery run into the first corner.
Yes, isn't it just? It's going to be busy enough with 32 of them about to head towards Copse Corner for the second race of the weekend in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge. Good start made from the outside of row 1 by yesterday's winner, Scott McKenna, who's looking to double up here and take the championship lead away maybe from Jerry Nicosia, who's trying to go into second place there in the orange, blue and white machine on the outside line. He won't quite succeed in doing so, though, so Gordy Much should slot into P2 with side-by-side battling then between Nicosia and Smalley for third. Now, let's see if for the first time today we can get the entire field through Beckett's in one piece. It's side-by-side still for third between Nicosia and Smalley. One or two running wide behind. Katie Milner, I can see, was in the mix there, still in 6th position, I think, just behind Josh Malin. So far, Martin, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. Everybody else was 7th, though, weren't they, going into the Beckett's S's, which is always a bit of a recipe for lots of fiberglass in the air, but they have done a lot better than some of the fields come through. Somebody's slowing down at the back, but look at Scott McKenna. He's trying to break the toe immediately. And this is going to be something that we see all the way through the race. Long queues of cars, like in cycling, zigzagging along behind each other, desperately trying not to get dropped out of the toe.
Yes, which is easier said than done, but if they start tripping over each other behind him, then McKenna knows how to do this because he did it yesterday. Lots of battling going on behind. Katie Milner losing a few positions now, unfortunately. Looks like Gus Bowers and Ruben Del Sart, the orange machine, are coming through down to Vale. The yellow car just out of shot now is Connor Grady, another potential front runner. But we've got, what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 or 14 cars, roughly, in one long queue, and that's not likely to change anytime soon.
And that's why people love racing these Ginettas, because they are so raceable, so drivable. They're not hugely aerodynamically important or dependent, but they are so equal. Katie Milner, the red, white and blue, right in the thick of it. Car number 50. Arms and elbows out everywhere, and Adam Smalley up to 3rd place, just ahead of Jerry Nicosia, halfway around the lap, but Nicosia's coming back underneath him. Let's look further up the straight. He's alongside still with an overlap. Now he's got the inside line. They're going to come onto the cement dust on the inside line. Look at that. That's just where Jerry Nicosia was looking. He's got to stay to his left of that, which makes his entrance very shallow, but he does come back up to 3rd position. And in 5th place is the number 90 car of Josh Malin, who's all over the back of this battle for 3rd as well. But 2 have broken clear already. Is this going to be a long breakaway, or will the peloton catch them?
Well, the rest of the peloton are busy knocking 7 bells out of each other through Luffield Corner. There were 3 abreast, and I think 2 of those 3 cars ended up in the gravel trap and are losing ground. But yes, McKenna and Much pulling away there. McKenna 7/10 clear of Gordy, in fact, at the front of the field. Nicosia then in 3rd, has everybody else right on his tail. There is number 18, Danny Harrison, who is running at the end of the first lap in 10th position, so rounding out the top 10. The battle for 3rd then makes its way through Beckett's. A 3-horse race at the moment between Jerry Nicosia, Adam Smalley and Josh Malin. Nicosia and Smalley are well used to racing each other. They came up through the Ginetta Junior ranks together. One of the great things about this Ginetta GT5 car is you can take the same car from your junior level of racing right the way up now to the top level of G40 racing in the GT5 Challenge. They increase the power a bit once you leave the juniors. They put you on slick tyres once you get into the GT5 Challenge, and that's what makes these cars particularly good fun to drive and very, very rapid indeed. Through Stoke Corner they will all come, the field pouring its way through. But Martin, despite lots of side-by-side and 3 abreast running, not too much paint traded on the opening lap.
Yeah, there's this battle developing behind the yellow car of the 4th place yellow car of Adam Smalley, and there was a huge lunge. Both the guys behind dived to the inside in Copse. Neither of them managed to get by him though, so maybe they sort of held each other up. And that's always a little bit of an issue when you're in a queue, is you go, right, here's my chance, you've plotted it for a whole lap, you make your lunge, and then some other idiot right behind you has actually gone a second before you, so you're now 3 wide, and that completely ruins your planning. And at the moment, Adam Smalley just hanging on. Jerry Nicosia with the orange highlights right in front. So Smalley, 54 in 4th place around the outside. Desperately trying to go around the outside.
That's Gordy Much has spun there, Martin.
Oh,
right in
so
front
he
of
has
them.
out of 2nd place. Now, was he having a little lunge? No, he was over half a second behind our leader, Scott McKenna. So you're absolutely right. Gordy Much spinning out of 2nd place, which means Jerry Nicosia is up to 2nd. And that's then a 3-way battle for 2nd position.
Yeah, that's Ruben Del Sart there around the outside. I think I saw the 66 car of David Ellerslie, which was the next car in front of the rotating Much when he rejoined. So he's down to about 17th place, unfortunately. That is a real shame. Gordy was 8th in yesterday's race and didn't really deliver on his front-running qualifying pace there either. Things weren't going better in this one.
Yesterday to 8th, 2nd place to currently 16th. Yeah, that's not great progression, is it, from Gordy Much? And that's a real shame. This is the battle for now 5th place. Ruben Del Sart in the 55 car, just ahead of Josh Mallin, and down the inside, this time it works.
Tom Golding into 3rd position, having just set the new fastest lap as well, 226.925 last time around. Fastest lap in yesterday's race was set by Scott McKenna at 227.9, so conditions clearly a lot better today. It was damp and drying yesterday in their first race of the weekend. Today, as you can see, bright sunshine, much more pleasant ambient temperature, shall we say, and a bone dry circuit. Here comes Tom Golding though, looking for 2nd place now.
Golding is absolutely flying. His last time round was 1.4 seconds quicker than the 2nd fastest man, who is the leader, Scott McKenna. He has a little rub with Jerry Nicosia, a little bump with Jerry Nicosia. Jerry Nicosia, reluctant to give away the inside line, hangs on to 2nd for the moment, but Golding has got the speed of that, there is no doubt at all. Adam Smalley in 4th, Ruben Del Sart in 5th, Josh Mallin in 6th position. And Katie Milner in 7th place there at the back. She runs out very wide after a little biff from behind. That was Harrison, I think, the 18 car.
Katie Bowers, I think.
Oh, you might well be right, actually. That's Harrison going through now. In fact, no, it's not even him. That's Bowers going through now. So Katie Milner getting sort of elbowed in the ribs in both sides there. And again, the quickest man on the circuit at the moment is the white number 19 car.
He likes that outside line, doesn't he, Village? But I'm not convinced it's working for him. He gets good momentum off the corner. He's got the speed, but he's also got the impatience here, hasn't he? Because you can see McKenna is streaking away into the distance, and that's Gus Bowers, who's exit stage left. He'll have to pay to get back in. He's so far off the road. Bowers is his way back on. I don't think he lifted once in any of that. He's rejoined without losing too much time. Ahead of him, though, the 5 per second is further intensifying with the arrival of Ruben Del Sart and Josh Malin. So it's 5 cars now debating the bottom steps on the podium. Nicosia, partly because he's punching a hole in the air, is not as quick as the cars behind. He's being given a real workover here, sticking his elbows out and resolutely holding on to 2nd place for now.
So let's just remind everybody what happened yesterday when Scott McKenna got a break.
They never saw him again.
They all duffed each other up for 2nd and let him go. Clearly, that penny has yet to drop. Now, it is very hard when people are constantly attacking you. If you're in the position of Jerry Nicosia, you just want to go, guys, calm down for 5 minutes, we'll sort it out on the last lap. But right behind him, Tom Golding doesn't want to sort it out on the last lap, he wants to sort it out on this corner, and still 3 parts of the Beckett Sessions side by side. Golding on the outside, though, he's going to get hung out to dry. He'll have the inside line in the Chapel curve. He'll be right up behind Jerry Nicosia onto the Hanger straight, and it is a 5-car fan. Pick a 2nd place out of this. Golding should have just enough to come around the outside. He's still getting a side toe from Jerry Nicosia, and look how twitchy Nicosia's car was. Super late on the brakes into Cox Corner. 3 wide in Cox Corner, in Stowe rather, we're talking about.
Well, Josh Malin there was trying to go around the outside of both Adam Smalley and Ruben Del Sart. He got the mother of all runs onto the back straight, but just couldn't go anywhere with it. Oh no, Del Sart into the back of Smalley, and around goes the former Ginetta Junior ace, and that was a real shame. Well, both of these two, in fact, former frontrunners in Ginetta Juniors, but Smalley no longer a frontrunner in this race. He spun the car, and I think it's stalled, and he's probably busy swearing to himself inside the helmet and busily trying to fire the car back up. Hopefully he will do. They're relatively easy to get going again, but that car is not for moving, is it?
No. And that's a real problem because he is right within inches of the racing line. They will have been vigorously waved yellows in the Vale where you're unsighted and you can't see what's happening there at Abbey. So they will have hopefully been alerted at least to the fact there was something around the blind corner, and oh my goodness, that's what the something is. So our leader, McKenna, is currently 2.5 seconds clear. And for our race director, who has managed with cars off everywhere to avoid using the safety car so far.
Here's the replay. Delsart was trying the outside at Vale and just carried too much speed into, or more speed than Smalley anyway.
Yeah.
Smalley, I think, was trying to make sure he didn't run wide at the exit of Club, slowed it right down on the apex, and Delsart straight into the back of him. Hard to see really without seeing the onboards who was at fault there, but Adam Smalley now with a push from the hard-working Orange Army gets the car back underway again, and will rejoin the race now, but a long way further back than he'd like to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, real shame for him, but well done indeed to the marshals for getting him going again. And he is, yeah, all but last, I'm afraid, which is a real disappointment after a good start to the race.
Tom Golding on our timing screen was briefly showing as being in second place. That's because, oh, he is in second place. He wasn't at the line then. The transponder wasn't working on Nicosia's car, but now he is behind Tom Golding, who is finally through, but there's contact as Nicosia is all up the curb trying to get through the final part of the Beckett's complex there. Again, if they work together, there's still nearly half the race to go. I know that the race leader, Scott McKenna, is some way in front of them, but if they weren't knocking lumps out of each other, maybe they'd have a chance of catching him. As it is, though, I think Nicosia's primary objective here is to get this second place back. He's around the outside at Stowe Corner. That won't work. What about the exit speed? That won't work either. Now, Tom Golding, we have both sort of suggested, looked a bit quicker than Nicosia beforehand. Yeah. Now we're about to find out whether or not that was genuine pace or just the benefit of the slipstream. If he can pull away, that'll be really impressive.
Or whether he's had the best out of the tyres. Again, whether he set the tyre pressures just a little higher maybe than some of the others because he was further back on the grid. He might have figured, I'm going to need that little bite early on in the race, but he is ahead of Nicosia, and now if he starts to pull away, Jerry Nicosia might get the opportunity to settle down and actually maybe hang on to Tom Golding and try and catch our race leader, the pole man, Scott McKenna.
So Tom Golding then, the Assetto run car with Jerry Nicosia behind him, and that gap is going out, isn't it, actually, despite the tow. So it does look as though Golding has some real pace. Oh, but he gets it all wrong through Village and throws it all away. All of that hard work, and not only is he out of the podium spots, he's down to 6th place now because the black and red car is Danny Harrison, who will also take advantage. We've seen him trying that wide line through Village. That was about the first lap that he's hit the apex, and it all went wrong, unfortunately.
Maybe just got a little bit too much of the curb. Let's take, oh no, it's the first element. He's already lost it before he gets here. He's having a big slide, trying to get it stowed under braking, and in the end, it just is not having it. And that's the problem with a front-engine rear-wheel drive car like this. This is proper old-fashioned motor racing. This is sort of Lotus 47 era of a car. So it really, when the back goes, and lots of these drivers will have grown up with front-wheel drive cars, and that's a very different discipline. But Jerry Nicosia suddenly again finds himself cool, calm and collected in second place by virtue of not having fallen over his own shoelaces.
Yes, exactly. And now with a 7/10 of a second advantage over Delsart as well, who is busy defending from Josh Bailin. So whilst that keeps him busy, might it allow Nicosia to pull away, I wonder? Well, not enormously so.
No, because these two cars behind, nose to tail down the Hangar Straight, will be quicker than he is, and they'll also be benefiting from his tow, so they'll be doubly quicker than he is, so they will reel in Nicosia immediately. However, if the three of them work together, somebody's just gone off on the exit of the Beckett's S's in the background, and somebody went off in the middle, so that's Gordon Much. There was somebody else on the grass. Jerry Nicosia in second, Ruben Delsart in third, Josh Mallin in fourth. This is going to be the remnants of or the remainder of our podium, unless Scott McKenna really drops one in a big way. Jerry Nicosia losing second again, trying to cut back, but there's no way through there. So Ruben Delsart, from where was he on the grid? In 8th place now. briefly up to second.
Yes, but then slow through the first part of Club because he was too quick through Vale, put him on the wrong line into the first part of the right-hander, and so back through Ginetta. This is why, though, the Ginetta G40 is such a popular car amongst young up-and-coming drivers. It teaches you that racecraft, doesn't it? You've got slipstreaming, you know, your corner speed is crucial, momentum is really important because they're not the most powerful of car, and it is a great proving ground for these young drivers. They learn their craft phenomenally well, and as you can see, it produces great racing for us to enjoy as well, so it's win-win really. So Nicosia back into second, Delsart third, Mailing fourth, and Tom Golding now into fifth, ahead of Danny Harrison. So Golding's fighting back. If he just keeps a level head here, a podium is still possible, second place in fact is still possible. He'll be frustrated at having made that mistake. He cannot afford though to let his frustration get the better of him. 5-second penalty, by the way, for Tom Golding. Oh dear, never mind. So Tom Golding, whatever he does in this race, within reason, he's probably not actually going to finish inside the top 5. I mean, he definitely did exceed the track limits when he went off at Village. I'm not convinced he gained an advantage, but the rule is the rule. He crossed the white line, and that was once too often for the clerk of the course.
I would think in that instance, when he was out of control, that probably was not the straw that broke the camel's back. It may well be that he's running wide somewhere else as well, or instead that we weren't particularly watching. However, Tom Golding, as you say, with that 5-second penalty, the problem though for everybody else is they don't know that, and there's no ship-to-shore radio, and they're not getting constant telemetry from or radio from the team going, you might want to speed up a little bit here, Lewis. So, you know, Tom Golding will go by people, and they may end up losing places as a result of trying to defend a position they don't need to defend because he's got a penalty and they don't.
There are more warnings going out, including to Matt Maxted, who's just moved into 10th place at the expense of Sami Saralainen, who I was about to make the point had moved from 18th on the grid to 10th, but he's now dropping down the timing screen, suggesting that maybe he's gone off or pulled off somewhere around the lap. That's a shame for the Swedish driver. The leaders, though, down the hanger straight towards Stowe Corner, and again, the all-orange machine, or orange and black TCR run car of Ruben Delsart, looking to the outside of Jerry Nicosia. He's got to be careful, though, because Tom Golding is there as well, and as Martin was alluding to, whilst he has this time penalty that will drop him down the order at the end of the race, for the time being he's very much a part of the race. They're almost 3 abreast into Vale as it all starts to stack up again. What effect is this having on the race leader, I hear you ask? Well, he's now 5 seconds clear, so indeed right on cue there is the race leader down the wing pit straight. He is not likely to be caught now with just, I reckon, a lap and a half to go.
So this lot, in fact, not our leaders, they are our followers, as McKenna is the leader, but Jerry Nicosia still clinging on to second, and the white car there, Tom Golding, all over the back of the orange car of Ruben Delsart, and Golding probably himself isn't aware that he's got a penalty either, so unless they put it on a pit board, which I think they probably wouldn't, he probably thinks, I'm going to get second or third out of this, and nobody's going to stop me. Unfortunately, Clark, of course, is already rather torpedoed that below the waterline, and number 18 car Harrison coming back underneath him as well. So Danny Harrison and Tom Golding side by side. Harrison is going to be on the oily bit of the track. No, he's not. He's going to make sure he's not by just moving to the right of it and leaving Tom Golding with nowhere else to go.
On the left-hand side of the screen, by the way, you can see the AM order. Wesley Pearce, who's running down in 18th position, is leading AM by 1.3 seconds over Matt Conchas, who is second place. Tom Golding, meanwhile, from inside the top 5 overall, sort of, runs a bit wide out of Luffield Corner. As we go on to the penultimate lap, actually, I reckon we'll just about, unless they throw the checkered flag a few seconds early, we'll just about squeeze in 2 more laps. There's Katie Milner running 7th, because Bowers is 8th. 9th position is the 23 of Josh Hislop, which is where he started, but he dropped down the order on the opening lap. And Matt Maxted, as I said, rounding out the top 10, but he's being warned for exceeding the track limits.
Yeah. So again, as the race progresses, more and more track limit infringements are totting up and final warnings are being given. So those will be shown at the start-finish line by the stewards. They'll have a black and white flag and they will have car numbers. They'll be throwing them out as fast as they can hold them. 5-second time penalties now being applied.
Ruben Delsart is one of those, Martin.
Oh dear.
55, 83 is Matt Maxted, unfortunately, as I kind of thought might be the case.
Right, which suddenly means our podium is Scott McKenna, the leader, not pictured here, Jerry Nicosia in second, and in third place, Danny Harrison. Those two, who are first and fourth in this little group, do not have penalties. The 2 in between them do.
Yes, but again, it's whether or not they know that, and if they don't, then they're going to continue to race. And it's all well and good throwing a pit board out, but when you're in a queue of cars like this, ducking and diving in the tow across the start-finish line, you're probably not looking at your pit board. So, and I don't blame them for that either.
No, I think there's a fairly good, good call there. Very unlikely to be looking at their pit boards. Maybe Nicosia, but right behind him, the rest will be busy trying to watch in front and behind. So Ruben Del Sart, the all-orange and black car, in third place, but with a penalty. Danny Harrison, Tom Golding up the inside, up into what is third on the road. He's got a penalty. Danny Harrison trying to come through, doesn't have a penalty, and also he gets ahead of a car that doesn't exist there, actually, as far as his end result is concerned, unless he starts infringing track limits as well.
Well, if he can get past the car in front of Tom Golding fairly rapidly, then he will be on the tail of the only car really in this bunch that matters to him. He may not know that, but he will then be within touching distance of Jerry Nicosia. But Jerry is actually starting to just creep ever so slightly away from them now. Adam Smalley, by the way, after his spin, is 27th position, nearly a minute and a half off the race lead, and being warned for exceeding track limits. So I think, again, red mist well and truly descending there.
Right, so 5 seconds at the line. This is the final lap of the race then. So Scott McKenna, the race leader, by was 6, now down to 5.4. So he's selected top gear and is cruising round. Jerry Nicosia is creeping away from the battle for second. Tom Golding, the white number 19 car, in third. Behind him, Danny Harrison in the black and red car, and Danny Harrison, who may or may not, probably almost certainly doesn't know about penalties, all he can see is that white car number 19. That's the podium, and that's all that matters to him now on the last lap. He's probably seen the last lap board, so he now goes, the podium is the white car right in front of me. I must get by.
What would almost certainly be his first podium of the year. I don't recall seeing the number 18 car in the top 3 yet this season, so what would you do for your first podium of the year? You'd certainly go for it on the last lap, I'm sure.
I'll tell you what, this is going to be a James Hunt Fuji 1976 thing, isn't it? Because he's not going to finish on the podium, and he's going to be really upset with himself, only to get out of the car after slowing down lap to finish on the podium, in fact, as long as he doesn't get tagged from behind by Ruben Del Sart's orange car.
Yes, who will still be racing, of course.
Across the not finish line for this weekend finish line comes the leader, Scott McKenna.
That's the wing, down towards Abbey Corner. This is a fearsome corner, isn't it? And more or less flat out completely, I'd say, in these cars. They grip well, you can carry a lot of corner speed, but as Tom Golding found earlier on, at low speed, when the aerodynamics aren't working so well, what limited aerodynamics they have, can't carry quite as much speed as he'd have liked through this next corner at Village.
With all due respect to the men and women at Ginetta, my garden shed's got about as much aero grip as these cars have. It is mechanical grip, and that's what makes them such thrilling things to race. Second place, it's a 3-way battle for the podium, but only 2 of them can be on it because the number 19 car's got a 5-second penalty. So behind Josh Mallin, he doesn't have a penalty, does he? He will end up, the guy at the back of this queue should end up comfortably in 4th. Big lock up down the inside. I knew that Danny Harrison would have to have a go at some stage. It's too tempting. The podium was right there. He's gone for it.
10-second penalty now for Tom Golding, Martin, so he's done it again, so he's definitely going to drop outside of the podium places. None of this, though, concerns Scott McKenna, because he comes out of the final corner and the white and blue car takes the victory, his second of the weekend. Very good news indeed for the man who was third in the points coming into the Silverstone races, some 37 points behind Jerry Nicosia. Nicosia, though, will finish in second position. Danny Harrison third, Tom Golding fourth, Ruben Del Sart in fifth, but some of that may change around once those penalties are applied.
Well, Tom Golding, yeah, no, he's already in free fall. He'll end up outside the top 10, I think, because because they've only applied 5 seconds to him so far. Should be another 5 seconds to be applied. He was 6 seconds behind the leader, and 10th place was 16 seconds behind the leader. So he should drop back down right to the bottom of the top 10 with that double bubble penalty. Wow. So, yeah, Danny Harrison, he had to have a go, didn't he? You know, he knew where he was on the road. He could count the number of cars in front of him, and there was one too many for him to make it onto the podium, and he had a massive go on the final lap. Proper Silverstone type finish, last lap lunge, and through he went into third. which, had he but known it, was going to be his, whether he made the pass successfully or not.
Yeah, in a way, I prefer it when they don't know about the penalties, because they continue to go for it with, and then it's always a nice surprise for them when they arrive in Parc Fermé to be handed a podium trophy. So congratulations then to Scott McKenna, 2 race victories. He may have limited experience, like all of these drivers, on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, but he's got to grips with it fairly well, and he's really learned how the racing works here. If you make that early break, it really, really is difficult to catch you again, especially when they all start setting to it behind. And McKenna with a 5.2 second winning margin, not quite as handsome as his 7 second winning margin yesterday, but he'll take it.
He was probably getting bored by then, wasn't it? Well, he was almost 8.5 seconds ahead at one stage, and then, right, okay, that's it. Yeah. I know how this one plays out. The rule for winning at Silverstone, clearly, is to clear off early. Scott McKenna does it again. Jerry Nicosia, Danny Harrison complete the podium ahead of Josh Malin, Ruben Del Sart with that 5-second penalty only. Actually, in fact, he was he 6th on the road or 5th on the road? I don't think he dropped very much anyway. Katie Milner up to 6th position. And Tom Golding, the real loser there, 3rd until the penultimate corner, 4th at the line, 11th at the flag after exceeding track limits on a number of occasions, rather too many for the stewards.
Well, highlights then of the final race of the weekend for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge. Scott McKenna got the lead from pole position and never really looked back. Gordy Much went after him in the early stages, whilst Jerry Nicosia and Adam Smalley had a very entertaining battle for the bottom step of the podium in the early few laps. There was the usual running wide and action behind, and then the second place man Gordy Much rotated coming out of Village. He would not be the last driver to have a moment at that part of the circuit. Tom Golding, the white and blue number 19 car, was coming. He charged past Smalley, who then got tagged into a spin by Del Sart at Vale. Nicosia and Golding then got to it through Beckett, trading paint. No way through though for Jerry. So Golding was into second place. He was setting off after the race leader and then carried a bit too much speed through Village, ran wide, fell down the order and spent the rest of the race trying to fight back. In doing so, he ran wide over the white lines not just once but twice too often, receiving by the end of the race a 10-second penalty that would drop him out of the top 10. Danny Harrison on the final lap leapt into 3rd place. Jerry Nicosia came home 2nd, but a double race victory for Scott McKenna, the man to beat at Silverstone.